Imagine standing in front of a mirror, staring into your own eyes and suddenly realizing you're not looking at a face, you're looking at a question. A mystery wrapped in biology, memory, emotion, and something else. Something science has never fully captured. That strange, silent awareness behind your eyes. The thing that dreams when you sleep, panics when you fall, prays when you suffer, and wonders who you truly are. That thing we call the soul. For centuries, humans have tried to explain it. Philosophers debated it, prophets described it, and scientists quietly, reluctantly tried to measure it. Today, we live in a world where neuroscience claims the brain generates everything. Every feeling, every thought, every belief. Yet even the most advanced neuroscientists admit a truth they rarely say out loud. We still don't know where consciousness comes from. We don't know why we have inner experience. We don't know why a lump of grey matter suddenly becomes aware. Dr. David Chalmers, one of the most respected minds in cognitive science, once said, "We can explain the brain, but we still cannot explain the experience of being." That statement is not poetic. It is terrifying, because if consciousness cannot be reduced to neurons, then the door opens to something bigger. Something ancient religions have spoken about for thousands of years. The existence of a soul. Let's go deeper. Every day you wake up and slip into a role. Your name, your job, your cultural identity, your expectations. In the Western world, people define themselves through achievements and independence. In many Eastern and Middle Eastern cultures, identity is tied to family, community, and spirituality. Yet regardless of geography, every person feels the same strange sense of I am. That universal inner voice, that observer inside your mind. Ask a neuroscientist where that I comes from, and you'll get silence. The brain can explain reaction, memory, and emotion. But the brain cannot explain awareness. It cannot explain why you can step back and watch your own thoughts like clouds passing across the sky. It cannot explain why you can question your own existence. A computer processes information, but it never wonders who created it. A robot can learn patterns, but it never asks why it exists. Only humans do that. Religion has always said that humans question existence because we have a soul, an essence breathed into us, something eternal, something bigger than the body. The Quran describes the soul with the powerful phrase, "And of the soul you know only a little." Christianity says humans are made in the image of God, not in the shape of a body, but in the shape of consciousness. Hindu philosophy explains that the Atman, the inner self, is a spark of the divine. These are ancient ideas, yet modern science is accidentally circling back to them. Let's talk near-death experiences. For decades, doctors tried to dismiss them as hallucinations caused by dying brains. But the problem is, some of these experiences happen when the brain is completely flatlined, when the EEG shows zero activity, no signals, no processing. No awareness. Yet people describe exact details from the operating table, conversations made in the hallway, even objects placed on high shelves, things they could not possibly see. Dr. Sam Parnia, one of the leading researchers in resuscitation science, says, "Consciousness may continue even after the brain shuts down." That sentence shakes the foundation of neuroscience. Because if consciousness can exist without a brain, then it is not a product of the brain, it is something else, something that uses the brain but does not depend on it. Think of a smartphone, break the screen, and the display dies. But the cloud, the data, still exists. The brain might be the hardware, but consciousness might be the cloud. The brain is the instrument, but the soul is the musician. Let's bring this closer to daily life. Think about the moment before you fall asleep. Those seconds when your body is shutting down, but your awareness is still floating. Think about déjà vu, that unsettling feeling that you have lived a moment before. Think about dreams that feel more real than reality. Think about when you sense someone staring at you, even before you turn around. Think about the chills you get when you hear something that resonates deeply with your identity. These experiences are universal across cultures. Western societies may label them as psychological, while Eastern cultures may see them as spiritual. But the experiences themselves remain the same. Your biology doesn't explain why certain memories haunt you while others vanish. It doesn't explain why music can make you cry. It doesn't explain why you can feel attached to someone you haven't seen in years. These things are not logical. They are soulful. Neuroscience can measure brain activity, but it cannot measure meaning. In psychology can analyze behavior, but it cannot explain destiny. And biology can map your neurons, but it cannot map your essence. Let's talk about free will. Some neuroscientists claim free will is an illusion, that your brain makes decisions milliseconds before you're aware of them. But the experiments are flawed. They track simple, meaningless decisions, not deep, moral choices. Even Dr. Benjamin Libet, the scientist behind the free will controversy, later wrote, "The existence of free will cannot be dismissed." Religions have always insisted humans have free will because the soul is independent of the body. You are not your impulses. You are not your chemicals. You are not your trauma. You are the awareness behind all of it. Now let us explore one of the most fascinating ideas in psychology, the observer self. This is the part of you that watches your emotions without becoming them, the part that remains calm when your thoughts are chaotic, the part that survives heartbreak, depression, and fear. Western psychology calls it metacognition. Eastern spirituality calls it the soul. Two different languages, same phenomenon. Think about grief. When you lose someone, the body continues living, but something inside you feels broken. That hollow ache cannot be explained by biology alone. It is a wound of the soul. And strangely, humans across the world process grief the same way. Prayer, silence, ritual, remembrance. Whether in New York or Karachi, Paris or Lahore, Tokyo or Istanbul, the emotional path is identical. Because the soul does not belong to any culture. It simply belongs to being human. Now let's talk about scientific evidence that suggests consciousness might not be physical. Quantum physicists have found that the act of observation changes reality. The famous double-slit experiment shows matter behaves differently depending on whether it is being watched. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. Matter is derivative from consciousness." That is not a philosopher speaking. That is a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. If consciousness shapes reality, what does that make you? Some researchers believe the brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver of it. Like a radio picking up invisible frequencies. Damage the radio, and the signal gets distorted. But the signal still exists. This idea aligns perfectly with ancient religious teachings that the soul continues after the body dies. Now you might ask, if the soul exists, why can't science detect it? Maybe because the soul is not inside the body. Maybe the body is inside the soul. Every time you dream, your body lies still, yet your mind travels. Every time you meditate, the physical world fades, yet awareness sharpens. Every time you love someone, you feel it in a way that no microscope can capture. And here is the strangest part. Even the most skeptical scientists admit consciousness cannot be fully explained by physical laws. The hard problem of consciousness remains unsolved. And the deeper we go into the brain, the more mysterious the soul becomes. So what are the solutions? How do we understand the soul in a world obsessed with materialism? First, we must acknowledge that science and spirituality are not enemies. They are two different tools for exploring the same mystery. The West needs to rediscover wonder, the understanding that not everything must be reduced to numbers. The East must embrace scientific curiosity, the courage to question without losing faith. Second, we must understand our own inner world. Meditation, prayer, journaling, self-reflection. These are not religious rituals. They are psychological tools that strengthen the connection between the brain and the soul. Third, our societies must bridge the gap between material success and inner meaning. Western nations struggle with loneliness, despite wealth. Eastern nations struggle with conformity, despite community. The solution lies in balance. Individuality with spirituality, progress with purpose. And finally, we must accept the possibility that we are more than biology. That the universe is not cold and empty. That life is not accidental. That our existence has depth and intention. Maybe the soul is not a belief. Maybe it is the foundation of everything. Maybe you are not a body that has consciousness. Maybe you are consciousness, temporarily using a body. And the day your body stops working, the real journey begins. If we've learned anything tonight, it's this. The world is far more mysterious than we've been taught to believe. The brain can be scanned, but consciousness cannot. The body can die, yet awareness sometimes refuses to fade. And somewhere in that space between science and spirit, between neurons and eternity, between what we can measure and what we can only feel, lies the truth about who we really are. Maybe we are more than biology. Maybe the brain is not the source of us, but the doorway to something deeper, and maybe, just maybe, the thing we call the soul has been whispering to us the entire time. The question now is not whether the soul exists, but whether we are finally ready to understand it. Thank you for spending your time with me. If this video opened your mind even a little, share your thoughts below, because the conversation doesn't end here. In fact, it's only just beginning. I'll see you in the next one.